What's up, everybody? May not be the big splash signing that everybody was hoping for, but a dribble nonetheless. And here we are live on a Saturday afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well. Nick, Merry Christmas. How we doing?
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Craig.
Thank you.
As well. I had a good Christmas, good holidays so far. Excited to talk about JJ Bleday. This is a player that me and Mike both said that we would have liked the Reds to take a shot on, and here they are. They've taken a shot on it, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah, you and some others have identified JJ Bleday as a good, cheap option, and certainly that is exactly what this is. For those of you that haven't heard and have been living under a rock, the Reds and JJ Bleday in agreement on a 1-year, $1.4 million contract plus incentives. We'll break it all down here in just a minute. But Nick, how did your dad like his Omaha Steaks?
Well, of course he loved it. Everyone loved it. If you haven't yet, still plenty of time to head over to our friends at Omaha Steaks. Use the promo code Chatterbox for $35 off your first order. Steaks, burgers, hot dogs, apple tartlets. Can't go wrong anywhere there.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it, Nick. Obviously not a huge immediate needle mover, I guess is the best way to put this, but a low risk, I'm going to call it a high ceiling move for the Reds. I don't know that it really raises your floor a whole lot, but it certainly raises the ceiling if you can get the JJ Bleday of 2024. What was your immediate reaction when you saw that the Reds and JJ Bleday were moving towards a contract?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't think it raises your floor at all. I think it's well said, but it definitely raises your ceiling. I mean, this is a guy that in 2024 was a really, really good player. I mean, this guy was a 3.2 wins above replacement player. That season, he hit 20 home runs in 159 games. If you look at StatCast, that says 31. He played his home games at Great American Ballpark. So certainly plenty of talent there. This guy was a 4th overall pick, number 4. There was only 3 players picked ahead of him in the 2019 draft. So yeah, I mean, he's a project, but I mean, there's a lot to like about him. Every year in his big league career, he's had a walk rate above 10%. So he has a good eye at the plate, does strike out, doesn't have some swing and miss. Honestly, I look at his profile and I see a lot of Will Benson.
I think that's been a common reaction. A lot of people wondering what this means for Will Benson, and we're not going to get into that just yet. We will talk about the current depth of the Reds and what this means, but we want to start with JJ Bleday. Obviously, you mentioned a lot about his 2024, struggled in 2025, spent a lot of time in AAA, but did bounce back, have a decent second half, I guess, if you want to say that. Post All-Star break last year, 252 batting average, 115 WRC plus. That time in the minor leagues may have helped him, but ultimately a guy who was projected to make somewhere in the $2.5 million range in arbitration didn't make sense for the Athletics because, quite frankly, he just didn't fit in there. They had 3 or 4 other outfielders that were expected to be kind of cornerstones for them, and so they move on from JJ Bleday and works out for the Reds. And you mentioned that 2019 draft, JJ Bleday, the number 4 overall pick in that draft. Saw an interesting tidbit in our Discord. If you're not in our Discord, certainly encourage you to join. I'll drop a link in the chat here in a second. But the Reds now have 7 top 100 picks from the 2019 draft on their team. JJ Bleday, Nick Lodolo, TJ Sycamore, Reese Hines, Brandon Williamson, Callahan, and Steer, all top 100 picks from that 2019 draft. Davis Wenzel would make 8, but the Reds released him last month. So
I had no idea TJ Sycamore was picked that high. So I learned something today, Craig.
There you go. Our Discord, teaching you something new every single day. I'm gonna put a invite here in just a second.
Can I say something? I say something, Craig, that I've got to get off my chest? Please. Like, I keep seeing this take all over. This guy got sent to the minor leagues by the A's. And I think that it might be the most acidine take that I've ever, did anyone watch that series that the Reds played against the A's in Sacramento last year, where they beat around Hunter Green, where they beat around Nick Lodolo? The A's had a really good offense. They had a 105 team WRC plus. The Reds were 92. They had an above average offense. They had a really good outfield. So the fact that he wasn't able to crack their outfield last year, that is that'd be like saying, well, this guy couldn't have cracked the Reds starting pitching rotation. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah, I saw that you texted that earlier, and I know I responded. I mean, you look at the Oakland Athletics outfield, and certainly I know one name that a lot of people have been pining for the Reds to go after was Brent Rooker. But last year that made a ton of sense. I mean, obviously Rooker was there, and then they had quality in all of the other spots as well. I'm trying to find our text message thread. I had some info in there, but Butler, Soderstrom, Clark. So yeah, Bleday didn't really fit in, and so it is what it is. I don't think that that's necessarily a knock on JJ Bleday to say that he didn't have a fit in the outfield for the Oakland Athletics in 2026.
The knock on him would be that every team just had a chance to make a trade for him with about a $2.2 million price tag. That's what it was projected in arbitration, and no one did. That is the knock on him. But him not being a starter on the Oakland A's outfield is not a knock on him, because they had a really good outfield. They had the kind of outfield that the Reds fans would dream about having.
Yeah. And it's funny because I feel like the Reds do this sometimes, but he also had this like insane play against them back in 2024. This is a decent defender. He's not a great defender, I don't want to say that, but he had this amazing play back on August 29th of 2024. I'm going to stop my thought. Michael Rolfe just a $100 super chat bomb, so he's going to take precedent over anything I was about to say. Michael Rolfe, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, Nick and Craig and the chat. My fourth kid is coming any day now. Congratulations, Rolfe. It will put me on Nick Kirby's level with four. JJ Bleday.
Let's go.
Now, the question, Rolfe, is there a fifth on the way, or are we stopping at 4? Nick's done. Nick's done. That ship has sailed. But is 5 in the future for the Rolfe family? We'll have to see what he has to say. But August 29th, 2024. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you as well, Rolfe. JJ Bleday with a diving catch in center field, and then doubled up Santiago Espinal at third base, who was trying to tag and advance on the play. So never fails that the Reds love to add guys who show out against them. And look, I understand the knock, and I think the real question here, Nick, is this can't be it, right? Like, you can't go into 2026 and this be your big signing. The Reds last year waited until the end to sign Austin Hayes, who was still available late in the offseason. This doesn't necessarily feel like that same kind of signing to me, where Austin Hayes was, all right, well, it's late, we need somebody, we can get this guy on a affordable deal. This is just, to me, a depth add. Is this anything more than a depth add to you?
No, I think it's just a depth add with some upside. No, I do not think the Reds are done. I think the Reds signed Nick Castellanos like almost at the end of January, even when they did that. And I don't think the Reds are going to go out and make a big signing. I think the Reds are going to make some trades that are going to what's the word I'm looking for? That are going to make people go, wow. They're going to make some wow trades. It might be good, it might be bad. There might be people that are going to, Reds fans are going to be mad with the trades. They might trade some of their favorite players away. But I do think there's going to be some wheeling and dealing that's done. I just think this was an opportunity. I guess the big question here, Craig, is was this the result was this kind of a move because they felt like they're out of the Luis Robert sweepstakes? I don't think this is a move, no matter what, that was to replace Luis Robert, but where the Reds like, all right, we're not going to get Luis Robert. Let's get JJ Bleday and let's get something else and try to piece that together. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think that this move at $1.4 million would make them out on Luis Robert, but it's the time. You can't ignore the timing that we just had Gordon Whitmire on our airways here and said their deal could get done this week if it happens. And it's this week, it's Saturday, and the Reds signed JJ Bleday. So I don't think this is a move to replace Luis Robert, but this could have been a move because they are out of Luis Robert, a piece of the move to replace what they were hoping to get there.
Well, we all know that the package for Luis Robert is expected to focus on starting pitching, but that doesn't mean that there isn't other pieces involved. And maybe someone like a TJ Friedel or or Will Benson could be another piece as part of a trade for Luis Robert. We don't know what that looks like. We'll talk more about Luis Robert and if there's a fit there towards the end of this, but I do want to focus on JJ Bleday for a little bit. I think one of the things that's most intriguing to me, Nick, about JJ Bleday, as you look at the stats and everything else, is that this is a guy that kind of fits exactly what Nick Krall was just talking about a couple of weeks ago, where he was talking about if you're a left-handed batter and you can put the ball in the air and hit a line drive, you're going to hit 25 home runs. And am I going to sit here and act like JJ Bleday is going to come in and immediately hit 25 home runs for the Reds? Of course not. That would be insane to say. But I will say that he's in the 93rd percentile of pull rate across all of MLB in 2025. And his pull air rate was in the 90th percentile. He pulls the ball in the air over 20% of the time. And for a guy like Nick Krall, who is obviously trying to prioritize getting the ball in the air, which is interesting compared to what we think Terry Francona and Chris Valaika prioritize, he seems to fit that mode and what Nick Krall thinks can be successful in Great American Ballpark. Now, obviously, the counterpoint to that is, well, why go out and sign a guy who struggled in 2025 just because he has good pull rate and good air rate versus going out and signing a guy that actually hit for power last year and has proven success beyond just one full year in the major leagues. But at $1.4 million, I mean, I think that's a risk that most GMs will take any day.
Yeah, I'm sure Nick Krall would love to be able to go out and go out and be able to sign Cody Bellinger. Like, that would make his job a lot easier, right? But when you don't have that ability, you got to go out and be a little more creative. JJ Bleday had a 133 WRC plus at AAA last year. The numbers are gaudy because it's the Pacific Coast League, but the weighted runs created plus puts that into context. I mean, 353 average, 409 on base percentage. And even still, like with the A's, like he was not good last year, but it's not like he was atrocious either. Like he still had a 90 WRC plus. He hit 14 home runs. This is a guy that was only 27 years old. So it's not like he did this at his age 32 season. And this is, his one last, I mean, this guy's still only 27 years old. The defense is kind of an interesting thing with him because last year was by far the worst numbers he's put up. Now they were playing in that weird minor league ballpark, and I wonder if there could be some issues with some of the StatCast metrics because that ballpark wasn't really configurized, or I don't think that's the word, configured for StatCast data for outfielders, and they have a lot of elite outfielders around him. And for the most part, he's played center field when he's played. I don't think the Reds are bringing him in to be a primary center fielder if he plays on the team, if he plays regularly on the team. I think he definitely profiles as a guy that, especially with that arm, he's got a really good arm, could certainly be a solid outfielder. I think would be a sizable upgrade defensively over, with all due respect, to Gavin Lux.
Well, there's no question about that. And the other our friend Soli, who's been on the show multiple times, sent out a tweet earlier today too. Bleday's projected 106 OPS plus would be the second best on the entire Reds roster in 2026. Solid bounce back candidate at a minimum, bench upgrade. And then our friend Mitch, Reds in 4, Bleday has a 109.9 max exit velocity, elite pull percentage, elite pull air numbers, and a sub 30 K rate, which you talked about. And he's never posted a sub 10 walk rate either. Like this is a guy who's got a good eye at the plate, puts the ball in play. I think he fits and fits well. But he can't be your everyday left fielder, right? I think
he doesn't.
But I don't think the Reds are going to have an everyday left fielder period anyway.
He doesn't even have to make the team either. Like that's the thing. Right. This guy still has a minor league option. So you picked up a guy for $1.4 million that has some serious upside, that if you get to the end of spring training, you feel like you have your 5 outfielders that you feel like are your best 5, you send him down to AAA, and guess what? Wow, that's a lot better upgrade than a lot of your AAA outfielders you ever get. So you have that option. And at $1.4 million, that's not a lot of money. I mean, a league minimum deal is almost $800,000 now, so it's not much more than that. And the cool thing too is a guy that is as young as Bleday, that let's say you do strike gold here. you actually still have control of him for 3 years. So that's nice. I remember like back when the Reds, and the Reds have done this a few times where this is one thing that Nick Kral's had some success with. A guy like Brandon Drury comes to mind. But with Brandon Drury, you found this diamond in the rough with Brandon Drury, but he was on the last year, and that was it. Like you find this, you get this great find, and then that's it. You only get it for 1 year. So the Reds moved him at the trade deadline. But if Drury would have been in the Bleday situation where he still had 2 more years, I think in 2022 the Reds might have hung on to Drury and seen if he was able to do anything beyond that. So that's just kind of a nice perk as well. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, he doesn't have to be on the big league roster. Like that's the point I want to hammer home. That's a great thing to have. I mean, you just look and I think that I love our guy Jacob Hurtubise, but I think you found out like you don't want Jacob Hurtubise to have to get everyday at bats, and that's the kind of like you have players with upside that can take those at bats,
and that's been rightfully so. That's been one of the like reactions that I've seen too, is that you've had guys like Connor Joe, like Jacob Hurtubise that have taken at bats for this Reds team in 2025. I think if you gave most Reds fans the options of, do you want Jacob Hurtubise to be taking at bats, Connor Joe to be taking at bats, or somebody else to be taking, like most people are going to choose JJ Bleday over most of those options that got at bats for the Reds in 2026 or in 2025, excuse me. So I think it's a low cost move. You mentioned the 3 years of control plus the option. He's arbitration eligible for the next 2 years, so he's most likely going to be affordable unless he completely blows up, and even then he's probably affordable compared to a free agent market. So this is again such a low risk move that I don't understand why anybody would be overly upset about it, and that's coming from someone, as you termed, negative Craig. Was that the term that you said? Trademark, yeah. Of course, trademark it. Rolf with another $20 bum. Who's going to Reds Fest? If so, when? I'm considering going and taking my 5 and 7 year olds. Nick, are you taking I doubt you're taking the kids, but are you going?
I haven't determined yet. I don't know if I have any commitments to that. People like to tell me things last minute. So if I don't have any commitments, I honestly probably will not make the trek down. But if I have some commitments, I'll definitely be down. I'll be sure to let everyone know.
All right, Nick, let's take a quick second. We'll recognize our sponsors and go from there. You want to do it or you want me to?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it. As always, we're sponsored by the leader in renewable commodities. That is Deep South Commodities. For all of your oh boy, Craig, it's been too long since I've had to do this live ad read. I don't remember it. I'm losing
Come on
it
now.
DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. And as always, we know this time of the year can be hard for a lot of people. 988 is always there. Free confidential support for any reason you might need some help. So be sure to call or text 988. You can also visit mantherapy.org for support as well.
Absolutely. And we are live once again. Chatterbox Reds, Nick Kirby, Craig Sandlin, JJ Bleday, your newest Red. Nick, real quick, want to touch on Keegan Thompson. He was the corresponding roster move. Reds were at 40-man, a full 40-man roster already. Keegan Thompson, who they signed just about a month and a half ago, DFA'd as a corresponding move. Anything you want to say about Keegan Thompson and what this might mean for him if he ends up back with the Reds, or if you think that he moves on?
I'm sorry. The Reds made.
Keegan Thompson was announced as the corresponding move. He was DFA'd.
That is surprising. I did not expect that. I did not think it'd be Keegan Thompson. Yeah, I would say the Reds. I mean, there obviously was something that they liked with Keegan Thompson, so I'm sure they're going to try to get him back. But yeah, that would have been like maybe my like 6th or 7th choice. I actually thought there was a good chance they might have a trade in the works and that this was part of a multi-series piece of move. Mm-hmm. But I like Thompson. I mean, he was I think I basically pegged him as a Nick Martinez, very, very light. I think that's what you were kind of hoping to get out of him. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over it.
All right, let's talk about the current outfield depth for the Cincinnati Reds. Obviously, there's conversation about where JJ Bleday fits in versus the other options, but Why don't you break it down for us? Run us through kind of the current depth and what, at least as we sit here today, what you think is the starting lineup on opening day here in 2026.
Well, first I'll say it's really hard to predict because I just don't think this is what's going to be the depth on opening day. But as we stand right now, you kind of had to put players in certain spots because obviously Benson can play all three positions. Dunn can play all three positions. Bleday can play all three positions. Hines can play all three positions. So you kind of have a lot of flexibility there. But there's a lot of players that can play left field. I mean, you have Bleday, Luck, Steer, Callahan, Rodriguez, Benson, Hines, Dunn, Friedel, I think is a possibility of moving to left field. Certainly if they got Roberts, I think that would be that. You have a lot of options in left field. I do think the Bleday signing, in my opinion, takes Gavin Lux out of consideration of playing left field. I just don't think Gavin Lux is going to be on this roster. I would be surprised at this point. And then in center field, you have Friedel and Dunn. You also, of course, still have Benson. Hines played a lot of center field down at AAA last year. And then in right field, I think we feel pretty confident that Ovi Marte is penciling in right field. But could Marte DH a little bit? That's something we maybe haven't talked about it. Could they maybe DH him 2 or 3 times a week and run some of these other outfielders out there to improve the defense a little bit? I think we're bullish on Marte's ability to learn right field, but he wasn't great last year. That's a possibility. I think there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching. There's definitely a lot of opportunities here, and I hate to say it, but one of my concerns here is will the Reds manager actually deploy this right? Because like the Reds could go out and get Luis Robert and have this plan of, hey, we're going to platoon and we want this guy to match up against these type of pitchers and all this kind of stuff. But you actually have to use it properly or it doesn't work. So I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely a concern of mine.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the record, Nick, to your dismay of saying that I think Noelvi Marte is your right fielder of the year. And I think a breakout candidate for sure in that position. So I don't think there's any real room there. I think he's going to get most starts in right field, regardless of who's on the mound for the opposition. I think Will Benson probably platoons in center field more than anything else. I also have said that I don't know that TJ Friedel plays center field as much as he has in the past, but we'll see what happens there. I know that Terry Francona likes him a lot. But again, to your point, like even if it was a platoon answer, like I don't know that right now I look at that depth chart and I say, all right, well, here's your very clear platoon in left field on a day-to-day basis. Bleday goes against righties and somebody goes against lefties, right? Like maybe it's Blake Dunn, maybe it's somebody else, or maybe it's Reese Hines. I don't know what that looks like.
Maybe it's Steer if they went out and got a DH.
Right. So I don't know that, like looking at that today, that we have a clear answer. So to your point, I don't think the Reds can be done. And I think that's the biggest thing here is like, what's next? Is there a trade in the works? Is there another signing in the works? What's going on? And so for the 200 people that are watching on a Saturday afternoon, Nick, we'll shift gears to what I know is the biggest talking point in the Reds country right now, and that is Luis Robert. And you mentioned it earlier. Is it possible that this is a corresponding move that will be followed by another signing or trade? And I know a lot of people would like that to be Luis Robert. Obviously, there's a lot of people also wouldn't. A lot of people, I think, would probably view JJ Bleday as a cheaper Luis Robert in terms of floor and ceiling. I'm not sure that I agree with that, given Robert's defensive abilities and just in general. I think he brings more than Bleday on a day-to-day basis, but I understand their point. But I guess the question now is, okay, you go out and you make the signing, you bring in Bleday. What's next, right? And so where do you think the Reds stand on Luis Robert? Do you think that it's Chase Petty and somebody else? What do you think that looks like right now? And where do you think the Reds stand as we sit here today with JJ Bleday now in the fold?
I think Roberts would make a lot of sense. I mean, I think that if you got Roberts and maybe you trade away Gavin Lux, I know people aren't going to be excited. There's going to be a lot of unproven talent. It's going to be that that hoping that people hate, but that's what you have to do. That's what we signed up for as fans of a small market team. I'm sorry, but you add Luis Robert to that mix. I mean, there's some real opportunities there to mix and match and have an outfield that has a lot of potential. And a lot of guys that too, Craig, you can send down to AAA, like almost everyone on that list that I brought up: Bleday, Callahan, Rodriguez, Dunn, Benson, Hines. Even, God forbid, things went terribly south with Duelve Marte. Like, you have the options with all of those guys. So like that's kind of the nice thing, is that you're not really locked into anyone, and I think competition could be a good thing, Craig, too. Like, you get to spring training and you're like, you better come ready to play, or you're going to be in AAA. And there's nothing that motivates players more than you're fighting for your big league life. So I would love Robert in that mix. I don't know if the Reds are still in on that. I don't know if this meant one way or the other. I just don't really have a good pulse on that. But what I will say, Craig, I think what's next is, I think the Reds are either going to look for an outfielder or a first base DH type. And what happens is whatever the result of that is where Spencer Steer goes. If they get a DH, then I think Spencer Steer plays the majority of his time out in the outfield next year. If they get an outfielder, I think Spencer Steer plays the majority of his time at first base next year. I think that's probably what they're looking for, and they'll go one way or the other depending on what they feel is the best market value deal.
How does Sal Stewart fit into that conversation? I mean, obviously it seems at this point that he's either going to be a first baseman or a DH. I don't think there's any way that he's your second baseman of the future, and it seems as if with Ke'Bryan Hayes locked in now for several years that it wouldn't be third base. So I can't imagine that he reverts back to AAA to start the year unless he has a horrendous spring. But like, how does that play into all of this as well, given the fact that, okay, maybe they're still in on Luis Robert, maybe they go out and sign a outfielder. Well, then you've got Spencer Steer in this like super utility role. You've got Sal Stewart playing first base most days, DHing other days. Like, how does that fit into this equation as well?
I think Stewart is a first base DH, and I think he'll rotate that depending on, probably a lot of it would depend on how much Spencer Steer is needed in the outfield. I think if Spencer Steer's in the outfield, Stewart will be playing first base a lot. If he's not, he'll probably be DHing a lot. But yeah, that's how I see it. I would just pencil Spencer Steer as Sal Stewart. I'd pencil him in as the first baseman, and I wouldn't mess with it. But I think that's what the Reds will do with Sal Stewart.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting to follow, and we'll certainly see what happens on that front. Real quick, super chat, $10 super chat from Ned Flanders made me giggle a little bit. After 4 boxes of Omaha steaks and 20 apple tartlets, all deep fried and used cooking oil, my New Year's wish is for your next sponsor to be Ozempic. Happy holidays, C-Box Nation. We appreciate you as always, Ned, bringing a little laughter to our lives, and appreciate the super chat as always. And then Rolf chiming back in, and this is a conversation that I think fits into this overall conversation that we're having, is can we discuss the elephant in the room, Terry versus Benson? What's the beef? And this obviously goes back to the conversation of, well, Tito traded, maybe not Tito directly, but the Guardians traded away Will Benson while Tito was the manager there. Now Tito, the manager in Cincinnati, Will Benson relegated to a seldom used bench role, basically, despite having success when he did get the opportunity. Is there beef there, Nick? Do you think it's strictly he fell in love with Marte and Steer and all these other guys, Lux? Like, what do you think is really going on between Benson and Terry Francona, if anything?
I don't know. I'm not going to speculate if there's beef or not. I'm maybe it's just a situation where Benson swings and misses too much, and because Hines kind of got the same treatment. Other players that had a lot of swing and miss had the same treatment as Benson. I certainly think there's a world where Bleday and Benson fit in the same organization, and I think it makes the organization better if those two guys fight for a spot, right? I think that's what you should want. Both those guys can go to AAA. So the fact that you have two of those guys that are both guys that do have a low floor, we'll admit, but they also both, I think, have a high ceiling. I think that's good because you don't know who's going to do what. So ideally, yeah, I mean, I would keep Will Benson, but if there really is beef, which I think is really silly, then you should move Will Benson. If like you're not going to use him, why not trade him to a team that's going to look at his StatCast page and go, wow, hey, this guy's got some legitimate upside. Let's see if we can kind of unleash it. I think you should keep both. I think you should try to mix and match as much as you can. I think that players who have that option, I think that's the one thing that I think people undervalue the most is players that have options. Because in a 162 game season, you don't know who you're going to need. You can think you have a roster that's foolproof. We've come on here before in years past. I think we came into, what was it? Was it 2024 when they signed Candelario? And we're like, wow, remember we said there's too many position players. Do you remember that? How crazy that sounds now? But that was a real conversation. There's too many players. Where are they all going to play? And then like 2 months later, there wasn't enough players. So players that have that option that you can shuffle back and forth, that's incredibly valuable to a small market organization. That's what the Brewers do, man. That's what they do. They shuffle guys back and forth. They don't have guys that have no upside, that have no holes. And the good thing for the most part here, Craig, is most of these outfielders, minus Gavin Lux and Spencer Steer to a degree, they all are pretty athletic and can play a pretty good outfield defense. And I think that kind of goes back to the theme of this team really just finally prioritizing that, which is my favorite thing about the Terry Francona era so far.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would surprise anybody if Will Benson was traded away. Maybe as part of a Luis Robert trade, maybe something else. But the truth of the matter is, like you said, is that things happen, whether it be injury, whether it be regression, whether it be something else. You never know who's going to have to step up. This is a Reds team that had to turn to a lot of different faces in 2025 to give them at-bats. Many faces that I know many people in the chat would rather never hear their names again. So we won't bog you down with that. And certainly, hopefully 2026 is slightly different. All right. Well, I don't have a whole lot else, Nick. Anything else you want to chat about before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's all good. Yeah, I'm excited for this move. It's a guy that I wanted. I'm excited to see what's next. And, hopefully it's Luis Robert. I would love that. I think that you could really start to go, all right, this team kind of getting put together. But I think they're going to make another move. I really do. I know there's going to be a lot of people that are pessimistic, and that's fine. I know that's how people like to live on that side of the world. That's your choice. I would recommend, you know what? Hey, we have a new year. We have 2026 a few days away. Maybe be a little optimistic. Maybe like, hey, maybe the Reds are going to make a really big move that we're going to love. So let's see it.
Yeah, we'll see it. Well, as always, if the Reds do make another move, Nick, myself, the team will be live to cover it as soon as we can. Right here on Chatterbox Sports. We appreciate you tuning in. We wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, a Happy Kwanzaa, and anything else that you may celebrate. And certainly wish you a Happy New Year if we don't see you before then. Nick, is there anything planned for the next couple of days before the New Year, or should we go ahead and wish them a Happy New Year now?
There's nothing planned. I don't know. I think I'm going to try to do something early in the week if news does not break. I have one topic. I wanted actually to discuss the Hunter Green article. I haven't got a chance to do a video on that because we had Bleday and we had to do a video on Michael Chavis. Honestly, sometimes, Craig, I like to do videos on that just because I like to see the angry comments. So you kind of fuel me. To be honest, I kind of enjoy it. So keep it up.
Awesome. Well, the fellows at Off the Bench and the Stones Shields show will be live this week. If I'm remembering correctly, there is a show every day this week except for New Year's Day.
Correct.
So they will be live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, along with Friday. So make sure you tune in all week long. Tomorrow, Chatterbox Bengals. The Bengals play at 1 p.m. against the Arizona Cardinals. Make sure you join Reed Mouse, Andrew Collinsworth, and myself as we live react and watch along. That one will be live starting at 12:30 with our pregame show, and then Reed Mouse will take you through the entire game. Chatterbox Bearcats always live after each of the Bearcats basketball games as well, right here on Chatterbox Sports. Make sure you follow us, click the subscribe button, drop us a like if you haven't already on this one. We appreciate your support as always, and follow us on social media at CBox Sports. Until the next breaking news, for Nick Kirby, I'm Craig Sandlin. This has been Chatterbox Reds. We appreciate you tuning in. Happy New Year, everybody.